Okay, I'm back. Please excuse me for that. I actually found out that there are brushes in here. I've never known this. This is brand new to me. So I'm going to experiment a little bit before I commit to a brush. That's kind of unfortunate. It still gives me a circular... Yeah, I'm going to turn my size jitter down. That's kind of cool. This is sort of weird. You see what's happening? My size jitter is still happening, no matter what I tell it to do. Can't sit here and tell you that all my drivers are perfect at the moment. Because as you can see, my circle is much bigger. Well, I can press down and get more, or let up and get less, even though I have turned off my size jitter dynamics. And, you know, pen pressure, right? That's what we expect. That's when we expect that to happen. But if I turn this off, random, that's most certainly not what I want. See, it's still responding to pen pressure. So obviously there's still something at play here. Okay, well, just something we got to keep in mind. Let's take a look at our painting brushes. And it's sort of interesting that they... Oh, that's kind of cool. Well, that's not bad. Maybe I challenge myself to do something with a slightly different brush type. Hey, Jake. How's it going, buddy? So, Jake, just so you can see what I'm working on here, all right, so this is where I will officially start the video when I go back and edit it. So what I'm doing is practice. This is not a tutorial, this is not me telling people this is how you do things. I am simply letting people hang out with me as I work on this piece. I sketched this morning, and I haven't done digital art in a long time. I'm a musician. So I want to get back into digital art so that I can do some digital art for my promotional materials as a musician. And then also, you know, as an artist as well on the side. But and I'm also thinking about hiring some artists and commissioning some artists because I can't do it all. You know, I'm my own producer right now and been working on expanding my team. But I just thought this would be something that would be fun to hang out with folks. So I sketched this morning for a couple of reasons. One, because... well, quite frankly, I gotta change my category. It's not gaming. Excuse me. My category on YouTube is currently listed as gaming. It can be film and animation, autos and vehicles, music, pets and animals, sports, travel and events, people and blogs, entertainment, comedy, how-to and style, education. Well, it's certainly not gaming, but I don't know what else to call it. We're going to say education, because why not? All right, so I'm doing this character that I just made her up this morning for a couple of reasons. One, because I traditionally haven't done female characters most of my life. I've drawn guys, because growing up I liked superheroes. And I was, not there aren't female superheroes, but I was fixated on like Batman and Spider-Man and drawing Gundams and stuff. So I haven't always gotten a lot of practice on female characters, and in high school, what we discovered when I was talking to my art teacher in high school was I tended to draw females. They kind of just looked like young boys, almost, in the face. Second thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to go for not a realistic style, but kind of a cartoony, comic booky, sort of League of Legends concept art style. And third, I've been wanting to practice kind of futuristic space soldier armor because I've got a project coming up that I would like to use that in. That I'm not going to give that away, but you'll probably see that later. So, to start off with, I need to make some digital line art. I have my line art here. But through this first series of videos, what I'm going to do is my regular traditional workflow, which is, gosh, I really got to get the size jitter to go away. Is it flow jitter that's working? No, size jitter is still happening from pen pressure. Hey Moose, what's going on, man? I don't know if you heard my spiel, but I'm just starting on some line art for this character I doodled out this morning. It took me 2 hours to do this, but I need to check. There is a setting in my computer, I believe called I'm not worried about it. The size jitter's fine. Yeah, so I'm just practicing. This is not a tutorial. Okay. I'm going to start this one more time because I've continued to repeat myself, and this is going to be a really irritating video to watch on demand if I don't do this. So here's my start point. Welcome everybody to hanging out with me while I do art. I would like to do more of these in the future. I'm practicing because I'd like to get back into digital art. I used to do it semi-often as a I'm primarily a musician, so I want to get back into it so that I can incorporate some of my own digital art into my upcoming releases. I think I'm going to be maybe commissioning some artists as well because I just don't have time to do everything myself, but it's just something I want to get good at. I have traditionally not done a lot of female characters, so this is something I'm practicing, so I've made this character this morning. I also have been wanting to practice like space age, like fantasy sci-fi armor. So I designed this armor for her this morning as well. Wanted to make sure that it was practical and that the armor made sense and could actually protect this character. So like a real chest plate, real pauldrons and bracers and, you know, leg wear and stuff like that. I have my line art here, but I'm going to basically start off today by tracing my line art. And I'm going to go, basically I think I'm going to do this painting twice, unless I make another sketch. Once using my traditional method, which is to do a grayscale painting underneath my line art and then colorize it. And then, so like we'll say that will be, yay, ta-da, that's done. And then I think I want to do another version that has more of a, so that will probably look a bit more like a painting, and then I want to do one that looks a bit more comic booky. I have not typically been comfortable digitally painting straight in color. That's why I learned the method of doing things starting in grayscale and colorizing them from there. So I'm trying to kind of learn and challenge myself. So in the second iteration of this painting, I'm going to actually utilize the line art and do colors underneath it. Or maybe I'll start with color flats and then add dynamics to it. I'm not totally sure yet, but we're not there. Right now I've got to figure out what my preferred method is going to be for the line art. And what's hanging me up a little bit is that I'm trying to find the right brush, and in Affinity Photo I've never used anything but the default brushes. So I'm trying to kind of explore these kind of more textury brushes, but I don't really like the hard edges on these, or how inconsistent the flow is. So maybe if we turn that flow jitter. Why is there a rotation jitter on this brush? Stop it. There we go. Maybe something like this. I'm so used to only using the default like circular brush. Drawing. We've got drawing brushes here. I guess if I want this to be really sketchy, there's kind of a, yeah, that's, it's not going to look very nice if I do it this way because I am having to press pretty hard. This is the great brush exploration. Welcome, my friends. See, I don't like necessarily how scrumply all those edges are. I would really like to just get like a pen brush, you know, that has a slight angle to it. This might be the best I'm going to get in that department if I turn the flow all the way up. Let's keep exploring for a little bit. This isn't bad. This could have potential. Now I wish this size jitter, well, we got to get rid of the rotation. I wish this size jitter thing wasn't happening. Oh, I guess if you put it on 0, it's the same as putting it on 100. Well, I guess that's good to know. So if I start, and we got, I think, flow jitters on right now too. Gotta really bring that down. I don't want to be inconsistent. Let's see, can we just turn that off? Yes, we can. All right, I'm going to try with this brush. I frankly don't know if I'm going to like it. And then let's actually take this. We're going to put a white layer underneath it, and I'm going to bring down the opacity of this sketch just a touch because it's a little hard to see through it when I'm working. So we'll grab our paint bucket, go over to our swatches, grab a pure white, dump that in this layer here, and then we're going to take the layer above it, which is our pencil lines, drop that opacity some, just so that I can really definitively see what I'm doing. Give me one moment. I'm going to grab my water, because if I keep talking like this, I'm going to need it. Hey, Mike! How's it going, buddy? I just saw you pop in. Okay, so one last time before we really dive in. Here's the character we're working on, very armored. She's got... Oh, I actually added it to the sketch earlier. I'll have to put it back in here. I gave her a little grenade on the side of her belt. I figured for her gun holster, I would make it magnetic, as opposed to being like breaking leather or something. So these are two little magnetic plates that she just kind of sticks her sidearm to. And because it's a sci-fi world, let's go ahead and pretend that when her gun is connected to its holster, that the safety automatically turns on so she doesn't shoot herself in the foot. So we're going to get in here and just start from the top. Now, I didn't add pupils to her because I didn't want to mess them up when I was sketching. You can put the iris in, and then a character looks great, but it can be so easy. I actually do think I'm going to give myself just a touch more size jitter. And now that's not reflecting. Oh, we got to put that on pressure. Okay, just a little. Yeah, cool. And I was painting on the wrong layer, so it's a good thing I caught myself there. Speaking of sci-fi guns, I'll send you a video you might be interested in. Moose? You're speaking my language. Let's just get in here and be brave and start. And I guess something that I have to keep in mind is that I can always clean up my line art later, which I'm pretty much going to have to do. I wish, like, it would be really nice. I don't want to say I wish. I'm going to get a screen tablet, but that's not currently what I'm working on. I'm not currently working with a screen tablet. So just have to be brave. I did not go to art school, so right now I am not really 100% invested in my line weight. I don't know what line weight is. I'm not 100% invested in it's how Steadicams inspired real prototype weapons. You know, I don't know if you remember, Moose, or if you ever saw or heard of the show, but there used to be a show called Future Weapon. And basically they would explore futuristic weapons that were being developed, you know, and basically for the military. And I remember seeing one, and I don't know if it's being deployed in the field. I haven't heard any more about it. But basically, it was a stock. It was like a butt stock for something like a submachine gun or something, and it essentially had a little camera on it, so that when a soldier came up to a wall and they were, you know, forced into a choke point and had a long sight line to cover, they kind of went like this, deployed it, and the butt stock actually would turn 90 degrees and flip out a little monitor, so that there was a camera on their sight, and they had a monitor they could watch, so they could actually fire around the corner. Yeah, corner shot. Cool. So I don't know if those are being actively utilized by the military, if they were scrapped, or if they just don't talk about it, which is that's not the purpose of this stream, and it's not really my place to speculate, but just interesting. I noticed this morning, after I finished her, something I've been, gosh, I feel like I'm messing up this lineup. Maybe I will go back to using the good old standby brush. I feel like this particular brush, as cool as it might be, maybe it will lend itself more to because I'm being a little shaky with it. Got her little earpiece in here. Something that I realized this morning is that for whatever reason, the style of animation that I ended up drawing this girl in really kind of looks like Batman the Animated Series. Doesn't she kind of look like a Warner Brothers, you know, drawing of like Poison Ivy in the face? I thought that was interesting. I'm gonna commit. I'm gonna keep going. I'm forcing myself to kind of try to get used to this brush. I can't really tell you that I like it right now because I feel like I'm fighting with it a little bit. So if that's the case, you guys are going to witness what I call erase it and start over with the brush I'm used to using. But you know, you don't know unless you try. And maybe it could be that this brush is just going to be more conducive to see, because I feel like I'm losing sight of what's underneath. Maybe this brush will end up being more conducive to painting as opposed to drawing. Rigged a Steadicam to help her hold it, add the sci-fi element of it. Oh, huh. So they're using it for like a special effects purpose. That's neat. I'm at 600 DPI. I'm already getting down to some aliasing down here. And I tried to not overthink her eye shape a little, you know, too much. Just kind of made them sort of trapezoids, parallelograms. Again, I'm experimenting with this kind of cartoonier style. I've been looking at the concept art for a lot of video games lately, and that's kind of one of the things that kicked this off for me. Driving past your place right now. Who's wrong? You're driving past my place? Well, hi, Mike. I don't know if that show's probably not on anymore. Wasn't it on like the Discovery Channel or something? I almost wonder if I'm going to have to up the DPI of this drawing because I'm running into too much aliasing trying to work on her face here. This is at 600 DPI, but yeah, let's beef up this canvas. So this is where hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing here. I'm going to change my options. I'm going to change my I'm going to resize this canvas. Document, resize canvas. Ah, okay. So here's what's going on. This is at 600 DPI, which is a great resolution. But my canvas is at 8.5 by 11. Something's not right here. You're learning with me. Welcome. I don't want to be I don't want to be working on her face and already be getting all this aliasing in here, this pixelation. You know, I want to be able to get at least here and still be working pretty clean before I'm working down too deep into those details. So let's just resize our canvas a little bit. Resize document. So I'll tell you what. Let's try going. Let's double these numbers. 612. This is all the stuff that you run into when you first start a piece. We're going to double the size of this canvas. Woo! For this document. All right, computer. Let's see if it worked. Yeah, looks like it resampled this stuff. Yeah, that is much cleaner. All right. So I'm going to start over on the line art. And I think I'm going to go ahead and go back to the brush that I'm familiar with, at least to do the line art with. The line art is not going to be such a big deal now. It's really just more for me to have a more stable guide that I can paint underneath once I start the grayscale. But later on, when I do the second version that actually uses the line art, then I think I want to, you know, if I make good decisions for myself now, it really doesn't matter, does it? If I make good decisions for myself now, then I'll be happy later on. Here we go. Start up at the top. Oh man, we got to get all our brush dynamics set up. Set our size jitter to be about 30%. We'll give ourselves a little bit of flow jitter based on pen pressure. A little size and flow there. Yeah, I think it was Discovery 2 moves. I want to say that when I start working with the screen tablet, that my lines will be cleaner. And I hope that's the case. Maybe it's just a matter of practice. It's not something that I've ever put a lot of thought or work into. And maybe offline what I'll do is maybe I'll practice with some other brushes. But I don't want to bore you by sitting here trying to do it with a brush I'm not comfortable or familiar with and going back and forth and erasing. Again, right now, the whole purpose of the line art is really to give me a line to do the underpainting. Hey there, War Demon, how you doing, buddy? Long time? Well, long time in here. Long time since, really, I've been streaming for any kind of reason. I have an interview tonight, a music interview, with Christian Media Spotlight. And it's going to be a live stream interview on, I believe, their Facebook page with one of their correspondents. And then I know that this is what all the musicians say, but I have been working on new music. I'm not convinced that that's the shape of her eye originally. I'm trying to see what I did under here, and well, I've got the sketch over here. I'm making this too hard on myself. Why don't I just? I've got the sketch right here. I can literally look at what I did. Okay, I see what I did. It's literally easier to see looking at the paper than it is looking at the scan. Maybe that's because I brought my opacity down. Nah, the scan's just a little dirty. Well, I guess I could reference. No, that's not going to make a difference. But I see what I did. I essentially made her eye a shape. Yeah, I am too, honestly. So what's happened over like the last year or so is that I've been doing my utmost to get stuff done. I recorded a bunch of new material literally like a year ago. And it's great. I mean, it's some of the best stuff I've written so far. And the thing is, even since I've written that, I know I can write even better stuff. You know, like you learn and you absorb more musical styles over time. And but what happened was I spent all this time trying to mix and master it. And like that's great. There's an art to that. And it's something that I've always done for myself for years. But essentially what came of it was, you know, I started learning that there was more for me to do. And it was taking me too long to get that done. And I was running into professionals. Well, I mean, I'm a professional, but other people in my space who, even if they were really good, they would always have somebody else mix their stuff because it's easy to lose objectivity, right? When you're the one that produced it, you're the one that wrote it, you're the one that recorded it. So even some of these guys who have a lot of the same skills I do, they would have somebody else do their stuff. So I actually have been meeting with a guy, a drummer. How would one do the line art on this like nose line? Maybe this is going to be more of a I don't want to, like, her nose isn't totally turned up. That's not the way I perceived it. It's kind of like that anime style sort of short-handed shadow here. Maybe if I just give it a really lightweight, like, a bit like that. for now. I'm even thinking that... Oh, man. The lines... I might redo her eyebrows. It's just the line weight is ridiculous here. I've been talking to a guy. We did a night of worship event at my church a few months ago, and we had to audition a drummer for that. And this guy came in, did a great job, gelled with everybody, nice dude, right around my age. And so there was this is better. My line weight was just a little ridiculous on the eyebrows. Made her look like she's one of those girls who just shaved off her eyebrows and then drew it back in. No offense. It's not my thing. Oh, and her eyebrows do need to match, don't they? Again, let's refer... Okay. Eyebrow got a little lost in translation. So anyway, we have been going through the process of integrating him into my band. So, after a very long time, I would like to praise the Lord that there is a drummer in the mix, and basically right now he's just working on music. We haven't, I know he's a good player because we played with him for that event, so I don't have necessarily apprehensions about his skills, but we haven't played any of my music together yet. Yeah, that's a little better. And maybe I think this one on the right. It's amazing what kind of stuff you can get away with when you're being sketchy on paper, and then when you get in here, like I was noticing that those eyebrows weren't symmetrical. So this has a little arc and a little taper, and we need to add the same thing here. A little arc and a little taper, right? That's better. So we haven't, he and I have not yet played any of my music together yet. But we should be getting together to do just that very soon. Working on the mouth. Again, it's amazing how much stuff you can kind of get away with on paper. And it looks, you know, it'll look really good to you. And then you get in here, and you start having to make like defined decisions about how far does that upper lip go. That then really puts all of what you thought you knew to the test. And you don't want to half it. We're going to come back to this. I'm going to come back to this later. Maybe. I think I can. That line's pretty shaky. Yeah, one of the things when I was, I mentioned earlier, when I was in high school, I had never done any female characters, and my art teacher was kind of giving me some shorthand things. He's like, you know, if you're going to be drawing, it still looks really weird. I'm going to come back to this later. I feel like I'm messing up this mouth. Because, okay, here's her cheekbone. Her teeth would end right about there. So really and truly, that's the end of her teeth. Got to think about anatomy here, Sam. We're almost there. Just going to kind of connect this and round it out. All right, that's all right for now. We'll come back to it later. Maybe we'll smooth it out in the painting. These lines don't have to be exactly like they are in the drawing. So hair's just pulled back over this ear. got kind of a, I might change the location of this part. The part starts here, but scientifically speaking, it's kind of like it's crossing over her head. But when I look at it, it doesn't bother me, so I'm going to leave it for now. Again, I wasn't going for a realistic style in this particular character. It's going for more of like a, like I said, I've been pretty inspired by the art of just different games lately, like really the artists who work on the splash screens and the concept art for League of Legends. They're very good. She's got her little headpiece here, this little apparatus. I added this late in the game. She didn't originally have it. And I went ahead and I stuck it in here. Because I was trying to think of shorthand of ways to really drive home futuristic aspect, right? Like what ways can I signal that this is like a space warrior, or some, you know, some Space Federation soldier in a sci-fi or something like that. And the headpiece seemed to be a good fit for that. I added, so what I want to do is I want to give her all these glow lines. So this line across the chest plate here, the line down the shoulder, these lines on the legs, on the, not the greaves. I guess they're not, these aren't greaves. I forget what you call this particular piece of armor. But I want them all to glow a particular color. And I thought about maybe blue, but I thought orange might be interesting. Like maybe a white and orange color scheme for this character with a black kind of undermesh or something like that. We'll see. We shall see. Let's keep going on this hair. She's got a real aggressive flip here. Which again, like after the fact, when I started looking at this character, she almost gave me a real Batman the Animated Series vibe. Between the shape of her face and the shape of her hair. And maybe it's subconscious. Like I was kind of trying to go for that very stylized, like League of Legends concept art look. Your poor little cheek. But I used to watch a lot of Batman the Animated Series as a kid. So it makes me wonder if when I was trying to go for stylized but not anime, and this is what came out, it makes me wonder if like my Batman influence spilled over, you know? Because this does look a lot like something. What's that guy's name? The guy who was a producer and an artist on Batman the Animated Series and on the Animaniacs. Bruce Timm. This almost looks like something Bruce Timm would draw. I've always thought it was kind of funny that his name is Bruce Timm, considering Bruce Wayne and Tim Drake are both Batman characters, and his name is Bruce Timm. I just always thought that was kind of funny. And it's got to be unintentional, right? Those characters were created before he is a major part of the industry, but they were created before. She's got this lock of hair behind her ear. Try to do that as cleanly as possible. I want to be more steady-handed about this, but I'm actually beginning to think maybe I'll do better if I just be my normal sketchy self for now. Just clean up the lines later. Something like that. Let's keep going with your aggressive hair. You know what I'm going to try? I'm going to try an old trick that, I'm going to try a trick that we use. My hand, my sweaty hand, keeps kind of getting, whoa. My sweaty hand keeps kind of like squeegeeing across the surface of my tablet. So I'm going to take a piece of paper and put it underneath my hand so that I can't, that's what's been holding me back from drawing the strokes, is that I can't glide. Well, it's part of it anyway. I wish my chair didn't have arms on it too, but I sat here and did all that blaming, and then the first shot. This is something that I imagine will be easier once I'm working with a screen tablet. But I don't want to blame the gear, right? And who knows? Maybe this is why some people prefer some of those other brush types, because maybe they mask just a little bit of handshake. You know, if your brush looks a little bit more like charcoal and a little bit less like this kind of just sterile circle. But again, baby powder, bro. But again, I may redo this line art later when I'm not streaming, so I'm not going to get too hung up on it. I really just need to make sure that I get the form pretty well down. So I decided, in the interest of making this armor pretty functional, I decided to give her these. I don't want to call them neck guards, but they're almost like backpack strap tops that are made out of metal. Okay, out with the piece of paper. It's creating more distraction than good. Just keep reminding yourself, Sam, that you will clean up the line art later. And I thought it would be cool to give her like a couple of like electrical diodes sticking out from underneath her collar, like it's life support, or rather not life support, life signs monitor. So she's got the, and again, just thinking about little details that I could add that would add to the futuristic touch. So under, you know, coming out from beneath her collar, we have just these little like electrical diodes. I thought that would be cool. So, you know, it's going over her collarbone. The gauntlets, yeah, so I wanted to give her like a little screen here, a couple of buttons for a user interface, and then I'll probably make that glowing blue or something like that. All right, so zoomed out, we're looking pretty good. You get in here, you can see a little bit some of my inconsistencies, but as I told you guys before, I'm here to practice. So we're going to give her painting in white somehow. Cool. All right. So we will give her her second little neck guard that then goes over her shoulder. And you can't, because it's on her back, you can't, but you can see just barely right here, she's got like a little backpack on. Maybe there's ammunition in there or something, or a battery for her suit. It doesn't really matter what's in the backpack. You can't see the backpack. Oh, that I almost... And thanks for hanging with me on this first one, guys. The line art is the most boring part. once we get in and start painting, and if you want to see something, I started practicing painting last night. So if you, gosh, it looks so shaky. Is that one that bad too? Ugh. Whatever. Keep going, Sam. Push forward. We'll come to a point up there. Let it be sketchy. Let it be what it is. One day, Sam, you will work with a screen tablet, and this will be at least somewhat easier. One of the things I really like to do is I like to really use digital painting as a way to paint over photographs. So taking a person, you know, taking a picture of like my dog and painting over a black and white photo of him. And this will be a light panel, which I know is completely not tactical, right? Like in a tactical situation, you don't want to glow. You want to be inconspicuous, but we can suspend our disbelief a little bit, right? And let's see, her collarbone would be right about here, which I think you can actually see I have marked in there. So maybe we need to, I think we need to actually take the path of this diode and curve it over that a little bit. You know, just place it a touch. So if that's her collarbone, then this diode would kind of do this and come over the top of it. Yeah, that makes just little things like that. That makes a little bit more sense. So it's contoured over her collarbone. And I didn't want to, you know, I didn't show the process of me creating this sketch because I did it this morning in my pajamas, but I always start, you know, I try to do each section with shapes and bone structure. Because one of the things that I feel like I run across often, well not often, but I sometimes see, is I will see somebody whose piece of work from a value and a color standpoint looks really cool. And again, I've not been to art school. I am not the definitive authority on this, so I don't mean this to be overly critical. But I feel like I have an okay eye, and one of the things that I personally find a little off-putting about particular pieces of art is when they look very well painted. Spalders. There you go. It's remembering the different names of different pieces of armor. But we're like all the shading and the color and everything and all that is great, but the shape of the person still looks wrong, or their face looks like flat, or you know, something's just not right about, no matter how good everything else is, something's just not right about the proportions. And I can't sit here and tell you that this is perfectly proportionate, but I feel like, at least for a cartoony style, it looks all right. So I'm a proponent of, oh, there's no line across there. I'm a proponent of kind of doing things as shapes. So like a lot of the times what helps me is I will draw the rib cage. So, because knowing that the rib cage arcs up here and comes down on either side, so I'll erase what I'm about to do, but knowing that the rib cage is here, and it comes down like that, and down like that, and it stops right about there, having that knowledge means that, okay, this section right here, this is fleshy material. This is your hip adductors, I think, are the muscles that run across here and down. And then obviously you have your abs in the middle. Then you've got your sacroiliac, your sacrum here. And I don't necessarily draw the sacrum and stuff, but what I do think about is, you know, the hip socket is here and here, and because she's walking, she's in the middle of a walk cycle, right? She's got weight on this right leg, so this hip is going to be slightly higher than that hip. So actually, his hip ball joint should have been. I should have drew the circle down here. So you get shoulders of a little, and something that I learned from my chiropractor is that women actually have a little bit more of what's called anterior tilt. So their butt sticks out a little bit more than the average guy. So you got kind of this outward curve in the back, shoulders there. And then I had a really hard time, and I'm still not even convinced this is 100% correct, but because this, kneecap is here, but this other one would be a little lower, again, basically by the same factor of these, that the two hips are. So just some different things that I used to help me get the pose. Because, I've not formally studied, I just kind of like watched some tutorials, and I guess the closest thing to formal study I ever had was Mr. Pletz in high school, my high school art teacher, great art teacher, but gosh, that was 10 years ago, So I would have been 17, I'm 27 now. So we've got kind of this bicep cover, this tricep plate here. We've got her belt, which her belt probably needs to protrude just a little bit more since it's physically sitting on top. Jabney, don't buy Fallout 76. Did it turn out to not be what you were hoping? You know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to streamline this. I did have these as different plates that kind of overlapped, and I still think I'm going to do that. But I think I want to put another light line on either side of this row of ab armor. Since we've got these kind of Tron-inspired light lines in the armor, I just think they're cool. Again, impractical to have lights in your armor, throwing stealth out the window, but we don't do fantasy art to be 100% practical. I like to be a little bit more practical than most when it comes to designing some of these things, but I think you can get to a point where practicality, I don't know, like everybody has a different threshold for practicality versus imagination. And I tend to be slightly right of center. Meaning, I try to be a little bit more practical than some people, but not by much. I think a fair dose of practicality in the way that you direct a movie, or the way that you design a costume or whatever, makes it that much more easy to accept whatever fantasy world you're taking your viewer into. But I think if you go too far in the direction of practicality, it's not fun anymore, and it just becomes utilitarian and, gosh, there's a zillion factors. There's not enough direction and not enough story. Ended up meeting some guys and logging off the game to do prank calls with them because that was fun. That's the thing, man, and there's been, there are different opinions about how valid multiplayer gaming is versus single-player experiences in recent years. So when I go to clean up the line art, it'll be something of that kind of process of what I was just doing, erasing some of the fuzz on the edges. But we're going to keep pressing, because really I want to get to the fun part. I want to get to painting a bit. And maybe I can go ahead and do that now. You guys don't have to sit here and watch me do line art the whole time. So let's get a few more lines done here. Let's maybe play around with the face some. Can't hurt, right? There's a couple of strategies on this. One is to, I think I'm going to go with an underlying gray strategy. So what I'm going to do for her is I'm going to create a layer called underlying gray with an E, gray with an A, gray with an E. I think it seems more elegant with an E. Oh gosh, I better save this. I hadn't actually saved this document yet. Save your work often. Paintings. I'm just going to call her Lady Soldier for now. So, underlying gray strategy, since I am going to be doing this first iteration of this piece in grayscale and then colorizing it, I'm going to grab like a middle gray. That's fine. Make my brush bigger. Where is my brush? I'm not on the brush tool. That was silliness. So I've got this gray. And we're basically just going to fill in this layer here. It's like 100% opacity, just to give us a canvas, right? Give us something to grip onto. There's so many different ways to do this. But I started doing this a few pieces ago. I didn't always used to do this. I guess I'll start by telling you this was not always my method. And then what would end up happening was I had trouble later on in the process because I would really love the way something looked, and then I would get there and I would go to render it off or create a PNG of it, and there would be sections of my painting that were still semi-transparent. And so I realized that I had been looking at it, you know, on a white background or on a canvas of some sort the whole time I had been working. But then as soon as I went to render it off, you know, I would take off that white background, and I was just, you know, you assume that you've painted so many layers that obviously, oh, what's going on there? You assume that you've painted so many layers that obviously the whole thing is completely opaque because you've been working on this for so long. And then you go and you look, and no, there's still like part of his face is see-through. Well, and that happened to me a number of times. So now I like to have something completely opaque in the background. And this can be a little annoying because it's like, you gotta go in, you gotta color in the lines so meticulously. But the good news is like when you're painting, you don't have to. Because you can go back at the end and do a final pass. Well, there's actually kind of two answers to that question. If you want to be really safe, you can actually create like a selection based on your line art and use that to keep you in the line so everything stays almost perfectly sharp. I don't think I'm going to do that though. I think I'll just go and I'll let myself, you know, I'll let myself be free. We'll kind of work on her face tonight, so that you guys get to see something that's a little bit more fun, as opposed to just me sitting here plugging through line art, which is great, I guess, but not as gratifying as seeing the actual painting process happen. If you're joining me for the first time, I know I've noticed that there's quite a few people on the Twitch channel. Not calling you out, you can lurk, it's fine. But do check out my music. Search Samuel Bay on iTunes or whatever. Music is my primary thing. Do a lot of music. I'm also an actor. I'm in a play right now. I haven't done a stage play in a long time. And I'm actually in a Christmas play. I'm playing Joseph, which, you know, when I heard about that, I thought maybe it would be kind of cheesy. And it is sort of a musical. And of course, like being a Christmas play, it is... it's kind of, you know, it's family friendly. It's pointed at families. It is put on by a church, but it's being put on by a church that's taking it very seriously and has a great director, somebody that I know, and is actually an original piece of work. And there's like some real acting. It's not just it's not just kind of nodding off the same stuff you're used to hearing in Christmas plays. You know, I get to do a scene where I'm essentially in conflict and arguing with our Mary because she's expecting me to believe the story, you know, the story that she's telling me. And so it's been really nice to get back into acting. And what was honestly just a major blessing about it was I'd been praying about that, to be completely honest with you. I've been praying about getting back into acting. Told the Lord it was something I wanted to do. I told my family it was something I wanted to do. And the only thing I had really done in about the last year to pursue it at all was I went to this, oh, I just messed that line up. I went to this like industry mixer. It was basically an educational session put on by a talent agency. And that was great, but that was probably 9 months ago. And, you know, I just went to see what it was like. I think I gave out a couple business cards, but I didn't, like at that time, I didn't 100% decide, oh, I'm going to go, you know, pursue this talent agency and try to get an agent or anything. None of that happened. I guess I can decide on some of the hair dynamics as I go, as I paint, but. Yeah, that's looking better. But then this part just got offered to me out of the blue a few months ago. The director, again, is a girl that I've known for a while, but I didn't know she did theater even. I knew her as a musician. She was in a band. She was a bass player in a band. She came to me and she offered me this part, literally sight unseen, like had never even seen me act before. And it wasn't just like, oh, we need background characters in our chorus. Like, no, this is one of the major speaking roles of the play. And, you know, again, has some heavy scenes, some scenes that you've got to be emotionally aware enough to execute because there's a lot of little emotions involved. And I was like, man, how cool, Lord, how cool is that? That, like, I've been praying about that, I've been asking you about that, and then literally I just get handed and given this part. Like, I thought that was great. You know, while we're here, while we are in Lineart land, we're gonna give her, I'm gonna do this on a separate layer. We're gonna give her, we're gonna get rid of our size jitter, and I'm gonna give her pupils. All right, we're getting there. The mouth is still a little weird, so let's face up to it. Let's see what we can do about that. What did I do? There. Always use the undo button. Yeah, Moose, like that's what, of course, I've never been, like, I was never really I was never like a Fallout player anyway. But I just remember hearing some people talk about it. And I can understand, from an artistic perspective, I can understand, like, knowing that you have the potential to do something different than what people expect from you, right? I mean, that's, gosh, I've been in that situation a ton of times. Here, we'll give you teeth. Give you a little gap. So, you know, whether you're a musician or whether you're a game developer, like, I get that. You don't want to just do the same old, and you want to be relevant. At the same time, that lip would curve down. There's always, it's this perspective stuff on little shapes. Sometimes it helps me to think of body parts as objects, and not body parts, if that makes any sense. So, like, just reminding myself, like, this is a thing. Like, this part of this character is a thing. It has a defined shape. So this would end. I keep doing weird stuff. That's supposed to be my eraser, Mr. Man. That makes sense? No, that don't make sense. That bottom lip's got to come all the way across. But there's going to be, it's going to be big, and then it's going to slightly curve upward to meet that. Right? And then we got her teeth right there. Teeth. All right, that's decent. That's decent. All right, so we've got our underlying gray. Let's play around with this. So first, I'm going to start kind of big. Here's where I'll play with the different brushes. There's no harm in this. Painting. Here we go. Brush with a little bit of an angle. It's giving me a square box and I don't know why. Bring our opacity down. Right, so something like that. And we need to start working some dynamics into her face, which means I need to make some decisions about where the light's coming from. And I think that for the sake of trying to decide if our key light is going to be coming from this side or if it's going to be coming from this side. She's got her hair in her face here. But I feel like because she's walking this direction, she's walking that way, I feel like the light should be coming from here because she would be walking toward her goal and toward the light. So we're going to make our key light coming essentially from in front of her, which already helps inform some things. So let's go down. We're going to call this painting. Keep our opacity low. And I think since I'm just kind of roughing things in, I'm going to keep the hardness kind of low too. Make this nice and fuzzy. And we're just going to, you know, give her face some dynamic. Since the light is over there, you know, a lot of this is going to be in shadow. Like that. See, like already things are starting to make a little bit of sense, right? And this is going to get, probably going to get messy before it gets nicer, so bear with me. You can probably turn this opacity up since I'm working with varying shades of gray. I tend to be conservative in my moves. You know, so there's going to be a highlights on her nose. The nose. There. Obviously highlights on her brow. But we don't want to make those too harsh because we don't want to give her, like, you know, really big defined brow muscles. You give that to dudes. Oh yeah, I mean, just going back to that same conversation. Give her some highlights on her cheekbones, but bearing in mind that later on there's going to be a shadow next to the nose here. So again, we're just kind of roughing in some dynamics. Roughing them in to define the shape of her face. Give her just a little bit of a bump for the chin. Don't want to overstate the chin. It's easy to overstate the chin. Make sure that this face stays rounded off. And like already, even if I take away my line art, you can, it's a little scary. Gotta get rid of those pupils. Like you can already begin to see the dynamics of a face here. Add that line art back in. And we're cooking. Yeah, I think with a lot of games, you know, people are trying to figure out how to react to the changing landscape of like everybody making Battle Royale games right now, which some people, you know, some people think is great, and other people are going to cringe at, you know. So we're going to put a way more defined highlight on her earpiece, a nice like a real shine here because it's a piece of tech. Maybe give it another one. Maybe give it another one there. Just to really define the shape of this thing. We'll go to a dark, you know, give her eyebrows and get those roughed in here. I guess at some point I'm going to have to decide what color her hair is. She kind of strikes me as a brunette, I think. Kind of strikes me as brown hair. Maybe red. I don't really see this character as a blonde. Not for any stereotypical reason, that just for whatever reason she doesn't strike me as a blonde. So we'll kind of get the eyebrows in here. Sort of roughed in. Well, I do have to be careful about that. I don't want to be too messy with the eyebrows because I do want to maintain their shape. I'm trying to teach myself to be a little bit braver, too, and like, in terms of turning up my opacity, making big boy decisions, because that's why it used to just take me so long to get anything done. Was because I was always working at like 5% opacity. Any move that I made was made in like 100 strokes, right? There were right things. I didn't know what the right things were. Give her teeth in here. Which her teeth aren't going to be flat white, right? I mean, like anything else, it's like the whites of your eyes. That area, just like anything else, is going to be affected by shadow. So like we'll give the top of her lip a little bit of a little something here. Give her a little same thing down here. All right, we're getting there. We're getting there. This face is going to need some blending. All right, these cheekbones here, top lip area. We want to blend that together. She's not an aged character, so we don't want to give her lines coming down from the nose. So we really just kind of blend this stuff in here. Now, however, you know, in her skull, you have her eye sockets. So let's get in here, make these moves. A little bit carefully at first. Kind of push those eye sockets back into her head. And normally, you know, you have the top of, that's her eyelash, right? And she, again, we're looking at a cartoony character to some extent. But again, being that I've been somewhat inspired by things like League of Legends art or the things the artists at High Res Studios are doing. That's another, you know, just game developer that I looked at the art of. It's amazing to me how many like realistic things they will put into an otherwise cartoony looking character. So they will still have tear ducts and a water line in their eye. And I think if I'm being honest, I think I've kind of failed at that here. The shape, honestly, the top of her eye. So maybe I need to rework the sketch a little bit around the eyes. Because there should be kind of a water line and then the lash starts. And the way I have this structured, it's almost like the lash is coming down. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So we'll fix that. We'll fix that. Well, let's try it, right? Because I've got the sketch underneath. I can always just... It's always funny to just turn off the line art and see what you get sometimes. All right, but let's see if I can fix this. I'm sure I can. Go back to my basic brush. And I don't want her eyes to be open super wide or anything. I think I just need to define where's the eyelid. Where does that begin and end? Versus let's see. Where does the eyelid begin and end versus where the eyelash begins and ends? Adult decisions being made here. This profile of our eyelid kind of comes down, and then our eyelash kind of begin above that. So we have, you know, sort of these sprigs here. And I think I'll leave that generally cartoony. But even that's helpful. I'd have to move where her iris is. I feel like they're a little off plane. So I think her eyeballs might be off plane. We can always move it later. We're gonna commit for now. Oh, I've got the guy who's interviewing me sending me a message. I'm gonna play a couple songs for the interview. I gotta make sure I'm continuing to drink my water so I can sing later. So we've done that with one eye, and that eye makes a little bit more sense, so let's do it with the other one now. So we're going to erase this line. Going to get in there and be a big boy. We're going to say eyelid is here abouts. Means that this lash is going to have to come up a touch. And that eyelid is going to have to come back down. We've created a character with kind of high cheekbones so that that corner can be up a bit. It's erased. I have to make sure that this is erased and cleaned up now. If I'm going to create a separation between that and where the eyelash maybe comes down at some point, this tiny little separation. The eyelash comes up, and we'll leave it angular. This is something I've been experimenting with, and you'll notice this in the shape of my ear, right? where I've been experimenting with characters who have very geometric, like markedly geometric faces. So like, you know, kind of a flat rectangle squared off nose, or like ears that have very defined angles. Just a stylistic thing, just something I've been playing with. This style of nose is not one that I would have done in the past. I kind of took this from another artist today. Normally, you know, even in my line art, normally I would have had something like this. I wouldn't have had these little lines. I would have had something like this. Probably even lower for this particular character. Which, I mean, I still can. It's not against the rules, because her nose still does end down here. I guess I can kind of do both. Get you a guy that can do both. You know, because again, I don't really see this character as having a turned up nose to too much of an extent. Although I guess she kind of does a little. Well, we gotta keep digging. We gotta keep pushing. Is really what this comes to. So back into painting. Let's go back to our painty brushes. Which one was I using? I think it was this one. Save my work again. So what have you guys been up to today, those of you that are hanging out with me here in the stream? I started off my day honestly, by doing this sketch. I stayed up really late last night. Was just into this, to be honest. I did this sketch this morning, but if you were connected to me on Facebook, you would have seen that I did another practice piece. I did like a 1 hour painting last night, just to kind of trying to warm myself back up into this. Jeez. And you know what? I need to actually change my brush, my tablet settings really quick, because I like being able to switch. Let's see, what is it? The X key. Yeah, I need to change the back button on my stylus. I want to change it to the X key so that I can switch between two swatches without always having to click on them. So we'll go to our grip pen. I want that as a double click. I want it as a keystroke. And it's going to be the keystroke X. Okay. Now I should be able to go. Yes. So we've got kind of my lighter value here. She really probably, my opacity is way too high to be making that kind of move right now. Really need to bring her facial mask forward. And there's no reason that this part of her forehead should be any less lit than the bottom part of her forehead. And let's sculpt those brow bones a little. Move that same level of highlight down into the face, down into the cheekbones. And then there's going to be, we have to leave some latitude to be able to do things like this and like the side of her mouth. Food, homework. Yeah, I have some music client work to do. I spent most of the day yesterday doing production work on music stuff. I'm going to actually take my line art. I'm going to bring the opacity down so I can see what I'm doing. Got to bring the opacity of those pupils down. And I might bring that cheek in a little bit. Man, it's really sticking out there. I may even move the mouth over. The mouth looks slightly too far to the right. We'll see. These are things I can fix and liquify with a in Liquify persona. So we need to create a real separation between her lips and her teeth. So that's going to mean some shadows in here, up underneath. I might be over-exaggerating the shadow, probably am. Just going to blend this down into this corner. Yeah, it could be better, it could be worse. I really shape this lip down in here. Four papers due at midnight. Yeah, I've got some client work. There's a local-ish band that I'm doing some mixing and mastering work for. And then there's a guy out of Pennsylvania who they're trying to, I did some mastering work for him, and now they're trying to get the final things kind of worked out for his album. And I did some art, I did mastering and I did album artwork for him. So since I have my line art a lower opacity now, I can really start trying to make some moves that define the contours of things, because this is the kind of stuff that you can get lost in a painting. It looks great as long as the line art is there, and then you take the line art away, and it's like, oh man, you know, where's the bottom of the nostril? Sometimes you gotta almost give yourself a little line under there, get rid of the line art, and then commit it. Really harden it, you know, make it really definitive. Because like a nostril itself is going to be one of the darkest parts, and it's very small, right? But it is going to be one of the darkest parts of your painting. Yeah, this is already starting to shape up pretty well. I feel like over the last few years, even though I haven't directly done a ton of this, I feel like I've been learning some things. So you can see, like, her nose is shaped a little weirdly right now. Little weirdly. I gotta bring this highlight over. And I think we'll have to push this nostril out a touch. Just push that out. It's not bad, it's not bad. Working with some shadows here. And since this isn't, you know, the light's not primarily here, don't want to give her a mustache, but I can get away with trying to give her a little bit of dynamic here. I gotta turn my size jitter up. Why is the affinity interface still being a little bit buggy? That's not cool. You guys should be optimized by now. And you can see, like, things are still pretty rough in terms of, you know, I'm sort of sculpting out my jawline right now as I'm talking to you. Face is starting to take shape, but I may have overcommitted to those the tops of her eye sockets. You can always fix it later. What I need to do is I need to get the actual eyes in here. So let's lay in going to bring this line art down even further. I'm going to lay in, I think, the waterline first. For the bottom, like the bottom of the eyelid. Just kind of like that. Woo! Get that in there. And then the eyelashes, which we're going to, again, more cartoony, so I may not make these overly fibrous. I might give them just this defined shape. Remember, this is method 1, right? When we're doing our second shot at this, I'm actually probably going to have to clean up the line art and leave it in. Jake, I do not have Amazon Prime currently. Get her iris kind of defined in here. I'm rootin' tootin'. You get a cool cowboy outfit. Cowboy outfit for what? For what? Like an avatar of some kind? Yeah, this is already looking more cartoony in a way that I like. One of the things I've really been challenging myself to do in the rare occurrences when I have sat down and done this type of work in recent times is I've been trying to force myself to work quicker. Like to make a decision, commit to it, and not be afraid because, you know, you can always go back and paint over it. I used to never like that because it was scary. Mostly because, like, getting something to look the way I wanted it to look was kind of a rare occasion for me. You know, it was like, well, man, but I like the way it looks, and if I change it, you know, I don't know if I'll ever be able to get it back. But just as you know, as with anything else, as you learn, as you move through and you learn, you get more confident in telling yourself that, hey, I will be able to replicate this. I will be able to do this again. So already just in sitting down in this session, guys, we went from just her line art to now having this more defined thing. I think this little line on the side I'll have to push back again, but so pretty cool. Things are moving right along. I feel like Bob Ross a little bit. I'm painting and I'm talking about it. Alright, so we got to give her, I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. Right, establish just kind of a establish an eyelid, but you know, really down here, I don't know if that's as necessary. Comes kind of an eyelash. Woo! And then this doesn't make any sense, I think, anatomically, but we're going to go ahead and push that all the way up here. Because again, going for cartoony, going for concept arty. That's pretty cool. I've never made anything that looked like that. That's pretty neat. I'm making progress, and you guys are here for it. And I will say, using this different brush is markedly different. Is pretty different painting versus doing line art, at least for me so far. Like, I am enjoying it. I am enjoying it while painting. Whereas on the line art sort of side of things, I actually think I am going to use my circle brush, though, to lay in the eyeball, the iris, because it's a circle. I know I could work at a higher opacity. Yeah, the shape of her face is a little weird right now. Probably, I think honestly, because of this area. So instead of trying to like awkwardly repaint over it, I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to color picker this. I'm going to just work it down. Yeah, like I thought, when I did it, I thought this little shadow area was a good idea, and I thought it made sense. But obviously, in retrospect, that was incorrect, sir. Instead, what it did was it made her lips look displaced, which I'm still thinking that, I don't know if it's the way I shaped that bottom lip. Something still doesn't look right about them. They look too pulled to the left side of her face. I think I see what I did. Yeah, I do see what I did. Okay, I can fix it. I can fix it in the line art, I'm pretty confident. Look at that thing again where I stacked it into a layer. Yes, I see what I did. It's this bottom lip that I kept fighting with myself about. I now understand why I was fighting with myself about it. This bottom lip needs to end sooner. And the top lip needs to come down to meet it and not the other way around. Because that's what I did. Yeah, that's what I did in my original. I did it right in the sketch, and then I second-guessed my decisions after the fact. So we're gonna fix this. This needs to come up, and it's done. And then the upper lip. Okay, I see. Got a little stymied by this. So it goes down, and then it curves up, and then this top lip needs to stop a little shorter. It needs to come down like here, and it needs to curve down. That should be an eraser. Weird little glitch that seems to happen sometimes where when I'm in eraser mode, it tends to want to keep the paintbrush pulled up. That looks better. Like that already looks better. Which means we're gonna have to do some tweaking in the painting underneath to match these changes. I don't think it's gonna be too drastic. Things weren't super defined down there yet anyway. in painting land. So let's get ourselves a gray. Oh, you got a cowboy thing in PUBG. That's cool. Go down to the brush I think I was using. Which I think was this. We got to turn our dynamics back on. I'm still dialing in the way that I like things to respond in Affinity. I worked with Photoshop for so long. There are still little things like the way the size jitter responds that I'm still kind of dialing in for myself. And I've used Affinity Photo now for a number of years. Ah, that's part of it too. I put these lines in the wrong places. See, these are things where once you start painting and you start giving dynamic to things, it can be fun and exciting, but at the same time, you can take the way that your brain perceived what you did in the sketch underneath, and then when you start adding things within the painting, it's very easy to then turn around and feel like you messed something up, and it takes your brain a moment to recognize what that is, and in what manner you messed it up. So like in this case, I made her mouth look like it was too far to the side, and I don't know that that's entirely because the polygons of it are, but like I took this connecting area of her upper lip, I don't know the anatomical term for it, that was shifted. So in a way, because it's connected to everything else, there. So if I do this, and I do that, which is way overstated, at least for my current level of dynamics here. Just kind of do that. Again, one of the things that I've learned from doing production in music is you don't want to get too hung up on one element for too long either. So, like, I see this, I acknowledge it, think I'm doing the right thing to fix it. I think I might just be overdoing a lot of this here. So I'm going to flatten this out a bunch. Always come back to it later. Again, and it's sort of interesting. I've never streamed painting, so in that respect, I've never really painted with an audience. And it's interesting the things that are going through my mind now that I have people watching that normally don't. And one of those things is, dude, like, commit, right? Make a decision, or if you're not getting it done if you're not getting your desired result in a specific area, move on for now. I'm going to do a little experiment here. I've yet to decide if I really want to make her teeth separate things. You know, if I really want to articulate the separateness of her teeth. Or if that's going to be weird. So I'm just kind of laying something in here. That might be okay. Let's try something a little different. Let's try the old classic one line. And maybe knock those individual teeth in here. Okay, all right. Back to committing. Back to really pushing some stuff. So we're going to give the outer part of her eye here, and save again. Give the outer part of her eye here. We're going to do the same thing with the inner portion here, even though, you know, I'm going to turn my opacity down and then just kind of play with these things a little more. I think we might give her blue eyes or green. We'll give her a lighter eye color, create some contrast. That looks a little weird. Come back to that later. Let's do this other eye. Let's do this other one. So kind of go through some of the same steps here. Now I'm actually going to use my color grabber and grab that color there that we used for the iris. Bring my size jitter down a bit so that I know consistently what I'm getting myself into right now. Turn my hardness up. And the opacity up. Commit, 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 commit. Let's get the shape in there. All right. Do the same thing we did last time. Let's get this little subtle strip of the eyelid in here. It doesn't even have to go, like, in terms of perspective, it doesn't even have to go all the way across necessarily, but it just needs to be there. Now let's get these eyelashes in here. Woo! Going for stylize, so they can kind of be one big block, one big nice shape. Gosh, I did that I did that lid line so much cleaner on the other side. Oh, this is kind of fun. I like I kind of like doing this in a stream that's, you know, makes me feel like I'm not just sitting here plugging away at this by myself. Same kind of thing. I'm gonna have to like turn my tablet sideways. This is a weird. I tend to want to go left. I tend to want to go left to right. Maybe just because I'm right-handed. But I don't want any part of the painting to suffer because of that. And then we will lay in some bottom eyelashes. Looks like over here we did that pretty subtly. So we'll do it pretty subtly here. It's thicker toward the outside, where it kind of flares out. And then we're going to follow this. Even probably flare out a little bit more on this side. And then connect up top. Woo! And now we will grab this white and really get that in there. Again, bearing in mind that eyeballs aren't consistently white. They have light dynamics like anything else. So they will be lighter toward the center. It's been pretty good. I don't really feel like changing over to that other brush. Let's try and bring our size jitter down. Let's do this. Let's do this. Get this pupil right in here. Which we do need to make sure that's generally the same size as the other one. Yeah, generally the same size. All right, I'm kind of getting there. One thing I think I need to do here is we need to push her eye socket down. Give this bottom eyelid a little dynamic, and not make her look too adolescent by having that we don't want to have that no, that looks like a bag under her eye. We don't want that. But not make her look too adolescent by having that cheek come all the way up to the bottom of her eyelid. We do need to make sure that there's some sense about that. So just push this down a little bit. Of course, we know that this side of the nose is going to be more in shadow, so let's commit that a little. Push this out. Push this nostril to kind of where it sort of should be. And in the spirit of that very I'm still not 100% sold on this mouth strategy. Okay, I think I've in my attempt to define the eye socket, I think I actually made her look a little bit more sinister than I wanted to. So we're going to dial back some of these changes I just made. She's not a villain. Hey, thanks, Moose. So we are going to push that. Push the shadow here. Yeah, it's pretty good. Keep that going. Something seems unsettling to me about this. When in doubt, go back to the sketch. Yeah, I need to equalize that some. Maybe it's this line here that's bothering me. I don't want her to look like she's disgusted or snarling. Her mouth's just partially open because she's walking and she's breathing. I think I may have pushed some of this a little bit too far. So we're just gonna push and pull this a bunch. Maybe push that light a little bit more over to the side. Okay. She actually looks I feel like I accidentally made her eyes bigger, like cartoonishly bigger. I think I might liquify that down at some point, because I don't want it to get weird. I don't want her to look like a Roger Rabbit character. I'm also trying, while I do want her to be stylized, I don't want her to be overhyped in certain ways. So just something to think about. Something about that mouth is still throwing me. I need to equal it out a little bit. Flatten it some. Because what I really want to avoid is making her look like a sorority girl. She needs to have that soldier thing going on. So I don't want her to be too cute, cutesy in her face. She needs to look like she can be combative, and I'm not 100% convinced on that. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go into Liquify. We're really going to play with this. I'm going to grab this bottom area here and push this up. I want to make her eyes, honestly, a touch smaller. Again, I am going for stylized. But not stylized in a way that I'm ending with entirely. So we're just going to reshape some things. Oh yeah, I see a couple of places in which things got out of hand on us. Okay, I see how I can fix this. Back into Liquify. So I accidentally made the eyes significantly bigger down here in the corners. I gotta be careful that I don't make this move too big. I might have to freeze some of this. So we're gonna use freeze to make sure that these particular areas don't get distorted by what I'm about to do. But I do need to push up these corners because this is where things got carried away on us, which was not my intent. We gotta thaw some of this out. This might actually require a little bit of repainting over there. We'll see. We'll see how we can smooth things over. Let's see the eyebrows. Something isn't sitting right with me here. I'm trying to look for anything that yeah, it's the shape of the eyes that well, let's make sure that didn't suffer in the digital. The dynamic of the nose has changed quite a bit too. Okay. Well, no big deal. We're here to practice, right? Let's redo them eyes. Pop the line art back in here. Make sure we're using that as an appropriate guide. And this is a little sad, but we're just going to kind of erase. And what we'll do is we'll erase by painting. So I'm going to grab that value there. We're just going to retool some of this. So oh, that seemed like such a small move. And then I started making it. Alright. It's kind of blend this bottom part out of here. Alright, if we're going to do this, we're going to have to totally do this. I'm going to get rid of these eyeballs. Is that a little creepy? The pupils kind of just staring into your soul now. It's all right. It'll get fixed. I think I might retool the bottom of the nose too. And the thing is, I see that her eyes are off plane. It doesn't bother me. I feel like it should. I feel like the line art is a little bit wrong here. So, how do we test that? Well, I'm going to copy my line art layer. And I'm going to call this eye test. Put my brushes back to basics. Still make sure I have some size jitter in here, not a ton. And, you know, just using my eyeballing this, it's looking like there should be a little bit of it. There should be a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and then it should go up. That does look better. And I think, honestly, I think it can be even better. We really want, you know, we really want these eyes to match. Yeah, I think that's better because it was there. There was kind of a discrepancy there, and I think my brain was sort of making excuses for it. Yeah, I think we can work with this. So we're gonna, here's our new line art. We had to fix the eyeballs a little bit. And we get back in here and we paint again. And if you were watching somebody who's a total pro at this, they probably would have, they'd be farther along most likely than I am right now. That's okay. That is a-okay. As I said, this is practice for me. This is learning for me. And the thing about it is that the armor is kind of the easy part. And I don't want to get ahead of myself by saying this. The armor's very, you know, it's geometric. It's a hard surface. Whereas when we're looking at the personhood of this character, right? That's the thing where little changes can make big differences. And I want to make sure that I'm bringing out the way I perceive the sketch underneath. And like things are going to differ. To some extent, but I want to minimize that extent as much as I can. So what I'm sort of doing here is I'm kind of blocking out and outlining certain areas. And then I'm going to turn my line art off. I'm going to get in here in the painting. And really commit them from there. So the eyelash goes all the way up here. And that's great. The eyelash goes all the way up there. Across. I'm trying to stay a little bit geometric. Just kind of get an outline here so that I can go back in to Paintville and sew that up. And maybe that's part of my, that may have been part of my issue too, is that what brush am I using? I remember my brush being more geometric than this. What do you mean by tap clicking? By the way, hi Turboards. Not sure what you mean by tap clicking there, buddy. Oh, there's like a rotation jitter happening. That's, yes, I'm drawing on a kind of an old school Intuos 3. It's huge, but yeah. I'm going to do what I did the first time. Go get myself a circular brush. Yeah. So yes, I am tap clicking by your definition. I've just never heard that term before used for it. No, and we do need to put her earpiece in. No, it's all good, man. It's all good. Get that rotation jitter out of here. So let's get her earpiece kind of. Well, I do have, if you when you say scales, if you're referring to oh no, it's all good, man. I mean, we're hanging. Like as I was when I said at the beginning of the stream was that I am gonna do this two different ways. I'm kind of getting myself back into this. It's frankly it's been a while since I've done this. I used to do it more often. I'm primarily, I'm a musician, and I like to incorporate digital art into some of my album artwork. And I also do some client work for other musicians sometimes. But I've also just kind of been inspired recently to get back into this and get better at it again. Here. That's kind of the situation I was in. I just hadn't done this in so long that this is, as I said, this is kind of practice for me. Then I'm trying to determine, I kind of want to group these. Yeah, this will be helpful. I actually do think I need to turn the nose up a little bit more to match the sketch underneath. it's great, like, it's great that she's getting more dynamic, but she looked more steely in the beginning. She looks more steely in the sketch, whereas she looks kind of cutesy in the painting right now. And I've got to start taking some steps to rectify that. That's not the vibe we want with this character. She's got to look hardcore. She's a good guy. She is not a villain, but we still want to get some kind of. She's got to look like she's got ice in her veins. You know, she's a space soldier. Right now, she's a little too cute with her face painted as opposed to just sketched. I think there's a few things I can do to help with that, but in time. Single stroke kind of undershadow there. Might even touch up the opacity on that. There we go. And our light source is in front of her, so let's add a little shine here. Maybe we'll punch that up some more later, or hype it up, you know. I do think we're going to go with, again, to just make her look a little bit more stoic, and maybe a little. We'll give her blue eyes. So I'm going to lighten up the iris a little bit here. Yeah, she looks a little too cheeky, and I think that comes from this kind of cheekbone shadow coming in. So I might press that out. A little too cheeky. Picking up what I'm laying down. We're gonna push that out a little bit. Maybe kind of. Such a push and pull. I might have to come back to this. What I don't want to get hung up on one thing. Just pretty easy to do. Turb, I mean, to some extent. Like, again, I'm here to practice. So be gentle, because I'm just kind of getting back into it. But if you see something that I don't, I'm also always trying to learn. So, that being said, we do need to give her, which I erased earlier because I, redid the eyes, but we do need to give her eyelid some definition here. Same over here. Doesn't have to be super huge, but yeah, I probably am. I probably need to just keep moving forward. What I moved into this, get it to them straight. I moved into this so guys wouldn't have to watch me like finish getting all my line art plotted out. But you're right, I should be roughing things in on a bigger scale right now. So let's move on to the hair. Darken this up. I got drawings I never finished. I understand. We have all done that, sir. here and there. Give it some highlight here. Bring out these particular locks of hair so that we can see what's going on here. Get that line art off for a second. Yeah. Oh, no, I get it. And I've done it before. Usually, my usual workflow isn't working from a sketch. It's usually working from a photograph. I actually do more photo manipulation than I do straight painting, where I will take a photograph of somebody, convert it to grayscale, and from there, I will like add things, like I'll add armor. For this, I forget what that muscle in your neck is called. And so it's kind of blending. It's kind of blending photography and digital painting. And that's something I enjoy doing. Probably a little too dark on the back of her neck right now. It's still part of her body, and we've got to make sure it can contrast with her hair. But I have been, the reason I'm doing this way is that I've been experimenting with, I would like to get better at being able to do like stylized stuff, stylized kind of concept-y characters. And so I figured I'll practice and I'll stream my practice. And I have always been shy about working in colors. So typically what I do is I colorize after working in grayscale. That's, truth be told, that's the way I learned from a teacher of mine in high school. But that was, that was years ago now. And that's all well and good, except that, sometimes people will get, maybe not better or worse, but different results when they work directly in color. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this in grayscale first, the way that you see me doing it. And then I'm going to colorize it. And then I think I'm going to do this painting again, but the second time I want to do it directly in color, again as a practice exercise. 3%. It's a little weak. Yeah, so a couple of the things I'm seeing here. One is that I think she doesn't look serious enough because I think I need to add a little bit more squint to her eyes. Just a little bit like she's, like she's focused, like things are getting pulled in. Right now, she looks a little listless. So I think I need to, because again, the way I perceive it when I see it in the sketch, she looks really focused. And then when I see it painted, that focus gets taken away. And I think it's because it is droop. It's droop in this eye right here. See, it droops open. And really, when you're focused, you pull your bottom lids up a little bit. So I've been fighting with this eye. I'm gonna turn the line art off for a minute so I can really focus on pulling that up. So if you guys have enjoyed hanging out with me today, I will be doing this again. Often when I stream, it's more for music purposes than for art purposes. If you've never checked out my music before, please do that. just search Samuel Day in your favorite streaming or music buying marketplace. I'm on iTunes. I'm on Spotify. I'm in all those great places. Yeah, you're right about the right eye. I'm giving myself a little bit of leeway on those things, on certain things, just because she is sort of cartoony. Oh yeah, you're right. I see that. I see that definitely being zoomed into the sketch. Cool. So because she's kind of, I'm going for like I said, an animated kind of cartoony style. I'll let myself get away with some proportional exaggerations. That being said, I do still think you're right. I do think I need to pull that in a touch. Because I can, again, in the sketch I did it right. You know what I mean? Of course, in the sketch it's rougher, so I can make that argument. Because the sketch is a little bit more abstract, and you get away with certain things a little more. That's something I'm trying to get better at translating too, is the facial expression. I don't think I'm totally getting it with her right now. We'll get there. We may not get there today. Yeah, we gotta pull that out for sure. So I'm gonna start it by doing this. Just maybe kind of a crude way to do this. Color sample over here so that it's just not ridiculous. Kind of push this back in. Deezer, huh? That's interesting. We got to expand that bottom lip too. So let's grab this, turn our Lineart back on. You know what? Every time I get in the weeds, that's when I start almost messing things up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this really roughly. Well, I'm on Deezer, but I personally don't think I've ever used it. I don't really know much about that platform, to be honest with you. Okay, I'm on 20% opacity, but I'm not seeing what I'm doing here. Run this down. We got to create kind of a border here. So basically going to outline this. Line right back off, yeah. That eyebrow is just too dark. Oh, I gotta rough that down a little. It's so distracting. It looks like it's painted on, which is not what I want. I don't want it to look like she draws her eyebrow on. All these little things you think about. I like them better than Spotify personally. I think their pseudo radio stations are better. Well, that's cool. Doesn't Spotify do that though too? The artist radio thing? Like, here's your date. Whew. The guys are challenging are proving to be one of the bigger challenges of this piece, and that is okay. But I just thought I would share that with you. And they're so well defined as opposed to most of the rest of the face right now. Got to be careful. Alright guys, so obviously I am still getting back in the swing of things where all this stuff is concerned. I hope you've enjoyed watching me kind of flounder a little bit. As you can see, there are places in which I still have maintained my strengths, and there are places in which I gotta continue to practice. And thankfully, when I work with photos and I do photo manipulation, it's not as high stakes on things like people's expression and their faces. Because that comes baked in. And that's primarily what I've worked with. But I am trying to challenge myself and learn I'm going to have to sign off here in just a few minutes because I do have an interview that I have to make sure that I am connected and prepared for. So I'm going to add a few more details here while I can. And one of the things that I'm really trying to work on is speed, right? Making myself not just get things done, but get them done in a timely manner, which can be a challenge. And I'm not going to rush myself. Like, if something's not done, it's not done. Fine, period. No big deal. But that being said, I'm trying to, maybe getting things done faster isn't even the right way to think about it. I am trying to make myself have a more efficient workflow. So kind of what Turb was, pointing out to me just a moment ago is, hey dude, you're getting hung up on the face. But if you get too far into it, you're gonna be disproportionate in terms of actually getting stuff done. So if we take away our line art right now, this is where she stands. And I may even erase the eyes and do them again later because I still feel like she's looking too much like that. I feel like she's looking too much like that character from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the one in the red dress. That's not what I'm after. Not what I'm after with her look. Now her face is her face. And I feel like I'm getting closer there, but I need to do some things like okay, this upper lip needs to be a little bigger. I'm trying to make her look more mature, and by extension, more combat appropriate, more combat ready. And little subtle things, like the shape of that there. I'm going to have to, really, things are going to continue to get massaged, which again is a good point, a good reason not to get too deep into shading yet. Because if I'm still massaging the shape of stuff, and then I get caught up in shading, well, then I end up undoing half of my work. And that, my friends, is not what we want. Yeah, I still think these eyes are going to get redone. I've got to make some real definitive, offline, I've got to make some real definitive choices about the way this line art happened. This line art that went over. Because that's what it looks like. I'm not quite getting that vibe as soon as this is in play. I'm not quite getting the vibe that I want. Here, she looks a little more dangerous. This way, she looks cartoony but kind of cute in like a disarming, less mature kind of way, and that's not what we're going for. So I'll do a little bit of this work, a little work on this offline, so that I don't bore you with kind of revisions and revisions and revisions. But I will definitely be art streaming again, and I have some projects coming up that I want to do that with. But I gotta go. I have an interview. Go check it out on Facebook if you have the time, and I will catch you all again soon. Have a good one.